So for anyone who wasn't here last year, I think about half the audience wasn't here last year. Can you just give the team, maybe they live in a cave and don't know who Vuori is. Can you give everyone an update on who's Vuori, what is the company about, what's the journey been like for Vuori?
Yeah, sure. Good morning, everyone. So Vuori's athleisure brand. We've been around since 2015. In the last year, we've grown double digits. Our biggest channel is direct-to-consumer. Our second channel is retail, company-owned retail stores, which will, within the next year, overtake our DTC business. Today, we have 110 stores here in the US. We have 12 international, and we're growing somewhere between 30 and 40 stores a year. And so that's a huge growth vehicle for the company. And then our last channel being wholesale. You'll find us in Nordstrom's, REI, Dick's Sporting Goods. But then we're also in over 1,000 like boutique wholesale customers, like your surf shop or running store. So we're kind of the whole spectrum of wholesale. So it's fun, but it's a lot of work too.
And can you share maybe some facts with the audience around like how many SKUs you have and how does your release, like what does that look like for new SKUs, et cetera?
Yeah, sure. So, in fashion, there's new SKUs every season. So at Vuori, we have 2 seasons, and each season we're releasing somewhere between like 5,000 and 6,000 SKUs. And it might be the same outfit, it's just a different shade of blue, green, whatever, but it's a new SKU. And so we're constantly turning over new SKUs. So from a fulfillment standpoint, it starts to get challenging when you literally have tens of thousands of SKUs. And as a company, our liquidation strategy is probably not like a lot of other companies, so we don't really go promotional. So we end up with a lot of that product that doesn't sell at the end of the season. So that's just a challenge that we're working with internally. But yeah, it makes it challenging from a fulfillment standpoint and having enough faces for all the SKUs.
A lot of storage challenges
exactly.
With all the SKUs, yeah. So right now, today, ShipBob does all of Vuori's B2B fulfillment with your retail injection, obviously, into your own stores, big box, wholesale. Can you walk us through like the transition to ShipBob last year? How did you make that decision? We had some challenging times together, so we should share that with the audience.
Yeah, for sure. So our relationship with ShipBob actually came out of a crisis that was internal to Vuori. For many years, we had operated a company-owned omni-channel fulfillment center just south of the border in Tijuana, Mexico, and it was running smoothly. We had great success down there, but December 19th of 2024, the Mexican government issued a decree banning the importation of textiles to protect their domestic industry. And although we don't sell in Mexico, that prevented us from bringing our product into our fulfillment center, which was just across the border. So, a couple days before Christmas, I'm having to figure out where am I going to move the 4 million units that are either already landed at Port of LA or on a boat headed to LA, because I was clear for the holiday season, but in wholesale, January, February is a huge period where we got to get all the product to our wholesale customers, and I had nowhere to put it. And so naturally, I was desperate. I just started calling 3PLs. I called, the traditional, the Maersk, Riders, Geodis, what have you. They were all super eager to, do business with us, but from contract to go live, it was like 16 weeks. And that's really driven by the fact that, they use a third-party WMS. They're very deliberate on how they set up their operations. You're signing a 5+ year contract. So it just wasn't going to work for our situation. If I did go that route, we would basically have not transact our business for an entire quarter. So that wasn't going to work. And so I was obviously pretty down. That was a tough holiday, and then
this was December 20th or something. Right?
Yeah,
I was about ready to celebrate peak being over, and then got the call.
No, I was stoked because a holiday for us went smoothly. Like our robots worked in the DC, everything was smooth, and so I was already thinking about my vacation, and then this wrench came up. But yeah, so I didn't have too many options. And then one of our board members shared contact of Drew to our COO, and then our COO gave me the number to call Drew, and maybe the ShipBob could help. I went into the call with ShipBob with a very low expectations. Honestly, I had never heard of ShipBob. I was pretty confident that I was wasting my time, but the board member told me I should call, so I called. And I get on the call with Drew, and he hears my problem, and he's like, "Yeah, no, we could start receiving your product probably in about a week, and we can start shipping outbound in a few weeks after that." And I was pretty skeptical, but hey, I'm desperate, so I ran to my CIO, got him to set up a call with our tech team and ShipBob's tech team, and we had that call like a few hours later, and they seemed pretty confident that we could do this. And so me and my COO jumped on a plane, flew out to Aurora. You guys had that brand new facility that had the space. You had obviously the tech would work. And so January 15th, we agreed to terms. And on January 15th, I was sending trucks. I literally had, at that point, 3 million units sitting in Southern California. And I kind of did Melissa dirty. She agreed to receive 286,000 units a day at the Aurora facility, and I needed to get that stuff out of there. Our broker was running out of space, and so I told my logistics team, just send 10 trucks a day, and that's about 35,000 units a truck. So they were sending 350,000 units a day, because I would much rather have the trucks waiting to be unloaded than you waiting for product. And
you wanted to make it my problem, not yours.
Exactly. And it was actually pretty funny. The next week I was in Aurora, and on one day, so it's a 4-day transit from Southern California to Chicago. At least it's supposed to be. But some of these trucks, I don't know what they're doing, but they were getting there like in 2 days. So I was there one day at ShipBob, and literally 14 trucks arrived. So that was like almost 500,000 units, and the team there, Jermaine, who I see here, like him and his crew, like, they received it all. So yeah, we were able to quickly get all that put away, and obviously we can't start fulfilling the wholesale orders till we have the inventory and we have the fill rates that'll allow us to drop the orders. So after about 2 weeks of receiving product, we were able to start fulfilling orders, and I think our first outbound order was like February 9th. So from go to ship, it was like under 30 days. So I mean, it truly saved our quarter and made my life a lot easier.
Awesome, love it. Do you remember how many units we received by mid-February?
I mean, it was definitely over 4 million. I don't know the exact.
It was 4.3 million.
Oh, okay. All right, yeah.
Yeah. What an adventure, though. Cool. It was cool to be part of that story, to kind of get Vuori out of a position of what you described as a crisis into us really being able to step in. And our teams were on planes into San Diego to work with your tech team. I think that's part of the power of owning the full stack, is that we were able to get our tech teams engaged with your side so quickly and just unlock the way that integration needed to look really fast, at the same time as we were getting operationally prepared to receive all of that inventory and get ready to ship. So it's a pretty cool success story.
Yeah.
You talked about fulfilling into wholesale. It's really challenging with like Nordstroms of the world and such. How do you kind of balance the Nordstroms of the world versus these boutique retailers that we ship into, like Joe's Surf Shack in San Diego? Like, how does Vuori look at that?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's definitely a challenge. If you look at some of these majors, I mean, they honestly are, chargebacks are a profit center for them. So, I feel like sometimes, like you said earlier, right, they're creating these routing guides just to trip you up. And, when we were doing wholesale out of our DC in Mexico, we didn't have any documentation like on our WMS. It was literally just the knowledge of the individuals that run the wholesale department, and so that's not really scalable, and you're still bound to have errors, and so it's super critical that you're able to manage all the different routing requirements of the different majors. Luckily on the minors, they can't charge you back, so that makes it a little easier. But for our majors, I mean, you can end up tens of thousands of dollars of chargebacks, which is pretty significant. And then I'd also say on the retail side, I know you use retail referring to like wholesale, but we refer to retail as our company-owned stores. And even though there's no chargebacks with errors in shipping to our stores, when we don't ship the right product, it results in a lost sale. And so we lose revenue if you guys don't do it right. And so how do I manage it? Well, I don't, because you guys manage it. So it makes my life easier, but it's super critical that you're juggling all those different balls so that we don't have misses, because again, whether it's our companies losing revenue or chargebacks, it can get really expensive.
Absolutely. Everything didn't go perfect though. Like what broke with this transition with all the B2B volume, or almost broke? And then how did we recover through that? Either on the Vuori side or on the ShipBob side?
Yeah, so it was great when we didn't really start transacting till late February, and our biggest ship date for wholesale was January 21st, and I was supposed to ship out like 1.2 million units, and obviously that passed. In wholesale, if you don't ship by the cancel date, you're at the risk of losing that sale. All of our wholesale customers, they didn't cancel a single order, so they just let us ship it late. And so it was great when we first started going. We shipped a couple million units, and we were just sending it out. But once the backlog was clear, then we had to be held to the routing guides and all the rules that are associated with that. So even internally at Vuori, we were dropping wholesale orders that, like our team was already dropping orders that the cancel date had already passed. And so we're seeing chargebacks self-induced because we shipped after a cancel date. So there was that. Just the routing gets challenging. When they needed our product, right, they were picking it up like the next day. We were running into situations where you guys would pack it, and then Norcon would take a week or two to come pick it up. And we look at our wholesale revenue by the month, and so if it doesn't get on that truck, we can't invoice it on the 31st of the month, and so we miss for that month. So there was some I guess growing pains, just understanding of the making sure that we get everything out by the end of the month. But now we're smooth sailing.
Awesome. Yeah, definitely a lot of volume ramp really fast with a lot of retailers, freight and parcel, just getting that. And I have pictures of just the sea of pallets of Vuori on the dock pending pickup. So we've worked out a lot over the last year. On that note, we're really excited to grow our partnership with Vuori and take on the e-com or D2C fulfillment for you. Can you just kind of fill the team in on what drove that decision?
Yeah.
How are you thinking about that now?
Yeah, so obviously ShipBob's bread and butter is DTC. We've always been confident in your ability to do DTC. So it really wasn't a question of if, it was just when. Obviously, we gave you a big portion of our business to fulfill, and putting all your eggs in one basket can be scary for an organization. But over the last year, you've proven that you can transact our business very well. So now it just makes sense from a business standpoint, but also two big things that have happened to our business that ShipBob brings value to us, and the fact that moving our DTC to your facility in Aurora improves service. Right now, everything is injected into our parcel carrier in San Diego. So and 40% of our orders go to the East Coast. So if you order something, you don't pay for upgraded shipping, it's going to take like 7-8 days to get to our customers. So being in Aurora, we're like 3 or 4 days. And then the other big thing is shipping costs. They just keep going up. I mean, our primary parcel carrier is USPS. Our WMS does not have the ability to rate shop, so we only, if you order something, you're getting it USPS unless you pay for upgraded shipping. So USPS raised rates by 8% in April. There's another rate increase next month, and it's just getting so expensive. And we'll ship about 4 million DTC orders this year. I don't know, what do you guys ship this year? Like 100, 120? Yep. Yeah. So ShipBob gets a little better pricing with the carriers, and so your rate card is literally like 25% cheaper than our rate card, and then couple that with by moving to Aurora, our zone mix goes from like a 6.5 to like a 5.2, and so I mean we're literally gonna just on parcel fees, we're gonna save millions, and so there's definitely a cost incentive too.
Nice. We're really excited about it. Obviously, it's a win for us, a win for you. Can you explain kind of how it's working today? So all fulfillment is done out of Tijuana, and you said it moves into San Diego, and then?
Yeah, so our fulfillment center is just south of the border. If you order by noon, we can get it across same day, but then it gets injected into USPS or UPS, and then then we also have international. We use globally. And then we got to take that to DHL in LA, but yeah, everything's coming out of Southern California, so it takes a while to get to 40% of our customers are on the East Coast, so it'll definitely speed up service.
Awesome. Well, shifting gears a little bit, AI is obviously a theme of this week and all of our lives right now, frankly. We're investing heavily in AI. How has that translated to your experience working with ShipBob? Like, have you seen that show up in our day-to-day?
Yeah, so when we first started working with you, I recall calls where, we have multiple channels, right? Wholesale and retail. And, the wholesale order book, some orders are 2 weeks out. You're gonna pack and hold them. Some are at once orders. For retail, it could be a replenishment that needs to ship out next day. Some of it's newness that, we seed newness into our stores every couple of weeks. And so that might be a 2-week you have to ship it. We have a new store opening, which is like like it's somewhere between 20 and 30,000 units for the initial stocking of the store. And so all those order profiles are a little different, and you have a set capacity. And so, in the early days, we were literally getting on calls, and it would be like, well, how much, if it was 100,000 processing capability today, how much do you want it for retail? How much do you want it for wholesale? And, I was just like arbitrarily going, well, retail, give them 60,000 and do 40, right? It was just like kind of random. And now you guys have implemented AI where you're figuring out which order should be the priority for fulfillment. And if it's a newness that doesn't ship for 2 weeks, you can put that at the back of the line. And as we're adding new orders every day, it's re-racking and stacking. And so, I mean, I can't even remember the last time I was on a call where someone asked me to decide which priority we should have, because it's just seamless. You guys just fulfill what needs to come out first. So it's made my life easier.
Awesome.
I'm sure it's easier for you guys from a labor planning standpoint. And that's another thing, right? Like, when we first went to ShipBob, my team at headquarters was used to just dropping orders to our DC, and our relief for capacity was just to run overtime. And that's not really practical. Our retail team, they come in on Monday, they see what's sold over the weekend, and they're building their replenishment, but they don't drop that order till the end of day, and then there's a 2-hour difference because you're in Illinois. And so that capacity on Monday is completely wasted. And that employee at the warehouse on Tuesday isn't going to work twice as fast because they didn't have to do anything on Monday. We lost that capacity, and it was hard to teach our team at headquarters, like, if ShipBob has this capacity for the week, like, that's assuming you keep them busy every day. Like, they can't like stack it and do it all on Thursday, Friday. Like, just doesn't work. So there were some learnings there too.
Awesome. The new tool that we've created to really help drive these workflows has been a game changer for us under the roof in the building. We're able to consume, like you said, all the order flows, the dates that we have to consume, and then it re-racks and stacks as those orders, as you guys are dropping them. And our labor, stability of labor it's been a game changer for us, where beginning of the relationship, it was like mandatory overtime, 60-hour work week for the last week of every month, because we're trying to crush and get your plan and nail your plan. But now we're able to level load throughout the month, and everyone can take a deep breath, and we know that we're going to deliver the month on your behalf, right? And so it's been really helpful.
Yeah, and it's stressful at headquarters because we look at it in tranches of the month, and so like we're like in the early days, it was like, wow, ShipBob is packed, 300,000 units, but it hasn't actually routed yet. And, are we going to make it? Are we going to make it? And now it's like, 3-4 days before the month, it's like, yeah, everything's routed. We've invoiced. So we've already made the month. So it
Awesome.
definitely takes a lot of stress out of my life. So thank you.
The tool that we created to support your business has actually helped many merchants within ShipBob. So it's really an enabler. We're using that same methodology empowered by AI across a bunch of different merchants now who have, I wouldn't say the same profile, but similar profile, where we need to do that forward-looking planning and make sure that we can plan labor appropriately and hit those dates where we maybe pack and hold and don't lose the capacity. So it made us better as well. It's been a game changer. And the cool part, since we own the whole stack, is that we can make a change to that tool, today to tomorrow based on suggestions, and then it goes live immediately. So cool. All right, I'm gonna ask some more random questions.
Okay, all right.
Okay, so what's one piece of advice that you have for a supply chain leader evaluating whether they should consolidate D2C and B2B under one partner, or maybe keep things spread out across multiple partners?
Yeah, I mean, I obviously, I think having one partner, as long as they're executing flawlessly and doing a good job, I mean, I think that just makes it easier. But obviously, you have to have the trust and faith that they're going to be able to do the job. And so, I would encourage anyone to make sure you fully vet who you're going to be working with, because, once you lock in that contract, it's hard to get out if things don't go well.
And it's hard to move inventory.
Yeah, moving inventory is not cheap.
Yes, absolutely. What's one metric that you look at every morning as part of your day?
So the metric I look at most, I would say, is fill rate. If we are not 100% fill rate, then we missed a sale, or we have some sort of inventory accuracy, right? So, I think that's really indicative of how you're doing as in fulfillment is how close you are to 100, and you should be striving for 100 every day.
Absolutely. Great. What are you most excited about in Vuori's future?
The brand has grown astronomically over the past 10 years since they've been around, and so far it looks like it's continuing that trajectory. So it's a fun place to work at, and it's just awesome to see the brand grow. And it's pretty cool to work for a company where when you say the name, people are like, oh, like I like your brand and I like your product. And so it's fun to work at a place like that. And I'm pretty excited at the opportunities that today we have 6 stores in China. We're going to open another 7 this year. We opened up a store in Dubai, South Korea. So in UK we have 3. We're going to open another one this year. And so we're just growing, not just domestically but international. So I'm excited to be a part of that and see our brand, be a massive brand here in the next. Kind of already is, but even bigger.
Awesome. I think you guys have the coolest headquarters too. They have surfboard parking at their HQ. Yeah. They're that close to the beach, so it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
All right. We have about 5 minutes left. I don't know if there's any audience questions for Mike about Vuori or the journey with ShipBob. Any questions? Chris.
All right, one of the major themes over the past 2 days is B2B a necessary evil? Is it a word of mouth outlet for you to get more eyes in store versus bring them back to your website, manage the margins, own that customer profile? How does Vuori, as you've grown, do that mix of D2C, own that channel experience versus get as many people in retail as you can?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I'll be honest, I don't have anything to do with our growth strategy, but I will tell you, as a brand, we started DTC, but our founder recognized the value of being in wholesale, being with wholesale accounts, because when we got into REI, all of a sudden we were introducing the brand to literally thousands of people that didn't know what our brand was. And so it was a vehicle to get the awareness out there. Now, in our wholesale business, we don't offer the whole assortment. And so, it's kind of like the gateway drug, right? They go to REI, they get the black joggers, and then they really like them, and then they go to our website, and then they start buying from our website, or they go to our store. And so we as a company have used B2B to increase the customer awareness, and it's translated into obviously additional sales online. And then we see the value of having a brick and mortar store. I know there was a time maybe in the 2015s where everyone wanted just DTC only, but our brand, especially when you can come into our store and you feel the vibe, you touch the fabric, it just resonates with the customer. And then, they're also going to go to our website. So it kind of complements the DTC by having brick and mortar.
Here you go.
Yeah. I'm curious a little bit about your fill rate. Are they customer orders? Are they replenishment orders? And how is ShipBob supporting you? How are they assisting you in finding that information?
Yeah, so fill rate, especially for me, I'm looking really at my B2C fill rate because those are customer orders. For our B2B, we typically have a very high fill rate because they can't allocate that order until we have all the 100%. So it's far and few between that we're not at 100% fill rate on B2B. If it's for a retail store, we do have occasion where it's not available, but the fill rate B2B is actually pretty close to 100. It's really my e-com because we have a lot of mismatches between our WMS inventory and what's in Shopify, and it just has to do with some limitations in our tech stack that we're not updating the inventory like in a regular cadence. And so there's mismatches that occur, and then it shows it's available to sell to that customer, and then it gets to the warehouse and we don't have it.
So the transition to ShipBob for that business is going to materially help address that problem.
That's what I'm hoping for.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
You mentioned that you don't have promotional strategy like to sell off the stock that you have. So how do you get the distribution right? Distribution, I mean the size distribution of like D2C, wholesale, and your retail channels.
I didn't hear that.
I think the promotion strategy is like dead wood, like dead stock.
Oh.
How do you disposition dead stock if you don't have promotions? Is that the question?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and
how
so
do you get the 100%?
I think the answer is you don't, right?
Yeah, we don't, and so I'm storing it. And so that's a challenge we have to figure out as a business because once you go promotional, then that becomes the expectation of the customer, and so brands try their hardest to not go that route. But once you go, if you look at Lululemon, there's site-wide sales, and so it just retrains the customer to wait for the sale. And so we're trying our hardest, and so our liquidation strategy, we've partnered with maybe like Nordstrom's Rack, but again, we're trying to do it as far as few between, but at this scale, it's actually getting difficult, and so I don't have the answer. They're not asking for Mike's answer on how to liquidate. I just have to deal with the mess that's sitting at my warehouse because I have, just to give you an example, I have over 14,000 SKUs with 25 units or less. And most of those aren't even on the website. They're just like from 3 seasons ago. They're like 5 units of something that didn't sell, and I'm just holding on to it. So yeah, I mean it's a problem for every brand, and we're still working through it.
Mike, we have one last question for you over here.
Hi, my name is Josh. I'm with True Classic, and I had a question I wanted to ask you with regards to your retail store replenishment and then, of course, wholesale, retail, and specialty. I'm assuming that you've got a decent amount of VAS work, hang tags. Some stores might require them to be on hangers or whatnot. I'm curious to understand if that is true if you do VAS work. What's the systemic process that you use with ShipBob for managing the kitting work or the VAS work and the inventory that's in process and how you're handling that?
So we've been very lucky. Our wholesale customers don't require any, like Nordstrom's, for most customers, you got to put it on a hanger. They've waived that for us. So we actually don't have any vast requirements other than Nordstrom's has finally pushed us to get RFID, and we've slow rolled that for years. We're now getting compliant with RFID, but we don't have any vast requirements for any of our customers. Obviously, if that becomes an issue, we'll work with ShipBob to, come up with the process. But yeah, right now, we're not vasting anything other than when we do a price change, and ShipBob's been great. We have, in the last year, increased some prices, and so they had to retag. Actually, it was a lot. What was like 1 million units?
A little over 1 million, yeah.
Yeah, so, but that's the only VAS they've had to do so far. We do, at our return facility, we do have to get the product that's first quality ready for resale. And so if you've ever bought something from Vuori, it comes in a rice paper, it's called a Vela bag, instead of a clear plastic poly. And so at our return facility, they're actually folding the product that's first quality, making sure the hang tag's on there, the price is there, and then putting it in the Vela bag, and then we'll send it to ShipBob. In the future, I see a world where maybe ShipBob will actually do that as well. But again, we're baby steps here. So.
Yes. Cool. All right. Well, thanks for joining me again on stage, Mike. Appreciate all your input. This was great.
For sure. All right. Well, thank you.